I love retrofuturistic stuff. It was the promise of a future full of the imagination and yet constraints of the times when people came up with them. In a way, it was a promise of a future that we never got, a lot like Frutiger Aero aesthetic, except without the environmentalism, because it seems that while hoverboards and holograms on the daily basis are not a reality, a lot of technology is just super monotone and has led to a lot of monopolies. But that's a subject for another day. Today we're gonna look at the one thing that the retro future promised us that the tech industry has very much been interested in making a reality, which is whatever you want to call them, smart glasses, spatial display, spy glasses. I'm your cool Uncle Marissa, and today we are going to review the VITURE Pro XR glasses. Now, these glasses and a bunch of accessories were sent to me for review by VITURE. They've not seen this video and nothing is influencing my thoughts on this review. There's no exchange of money or anything of that sort, and if you know your uncle, you know that she is extremely honest. Now, first off, whenever I do a review, I like to talk about where I'm coming from, because I think that is very helpful in positioning where the review is coming from and positioning me in relation to you, the person who is watching this video, and perhaps actually hoping to garner something of value from it. I would hope. I have never been terribly interested in any sort of XR or AR glasses, which for the purposes of this video, I'm gonna go ahead and umbrella term them as spatial display glasses. Spatial display meaning you put the glasses on, they're connected to some other sort of display, and yet you see the display in your glasses just projected in front of you, but no one else can see it. So that's what we're gonna call them, spatial display glasses. I have tried VR glasses, and they are very cool and very just gaming centric. I haven't really been able to integrate them into my life because I live in a small space, and if we know anything about VR gaming is that you tend to need to have a good bit of space. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about spatial display. Spatial display, on the other hand, is not something that I've ever really been interested in, and I feel like the main point of interest is what we will be considering for the most part tech bros, people who are just early adopters of any technology, like, trust me man, this is the future kind of people, you know? Google Glass, do you guys remember when that came out and everyone was just being mercilessly bullied about it? The Apple Vision Pro is coming out, or is it out already? I don't even know, and people are already being bullied about it. Like, part of me is like, the one promise of the retro future that we have been forced to fulfill is like the dorkiest thing. Man, I want like a watch that spits out like holograms. I want like the hoverboards. Anyway, so with all that being said, when I was approached to take a look at this spatial display glasses and all of its peripherals, I thought, heck, why not? I want to see what it is all about. I want to be open to the possibilities. So the way these glasses are used is you plug them in to either directly a system. For example, you can plug them in directly to your Steam Deck. You can plug them in directly to your phone, to your laptop if it has the appropriate display port, and the screen pops up in front of you, and you're able to see it in the glasses. Alternatively, if it doesn't go directly in, you can purchase a dock, and that's how, for example, you would play Nintendo Switch games. And essentially that's just the thing, right? Like, you see the screen in front of you. That is the point of it. The screen that pops up is 135 inches with a refresh rate of 120 hertz. It has 4,000 nits of brightness, which just means it's very clear, and it brags ultra clarity, and that you can read everything regardless of where on that space it is. They also boast that there is no motion sickness, which is something that I was interested in given, again, like I said, my own tendency towards motion sickness, both in playing games that are first person and being in cars. They also have adjustments at the top of the glasses for certain degrees of myopia. Myopia is nearsightedness, so basically kind of binocular. You can make the adjustments if you have some nearsightedness. They also do offer prescription lenses, which I think is very interesting. By the way, the price tag on these is $400 something, so that is a pretty hefty amount. So if you were going to get prescription lenses in them and say your prescription changes, I personally ended up using them with contacts. I was able to, if I adjusted the myopia adjustments to the very limit, it was almost perfect enough for my prescription, which was really neat. Unfortunately, my eyesight is quite poor, so I ended up having to go with contacts. But that is something to keep in mind. If your prescription is not the worst, you can actually just use it without glasses and make those adjustments. It reminded me of when I was a kid and I had a pink pair of binoculars and I used to use them. And this was before we knew I had terrible eyesight. And I was just like, wow, binoculars really are amazing. You can see everything. And then I realized I was not seeing everything as binoculars intended. I was just seeing properly. Anyway, so that's a really neat feature. It's a really neat accessibility feature as well that other companies' glasses do not have. It also has two modes of viewing field, basically, where one of them you can have almost 100% darkness is what they say, and you see the black and the screen, and the other one is more, much more retro-futuristic in that you can see your surroundings and the screen is there too. Of course, it is a bit like a projection, so you can see through the screen a little bit, but you know, I guess it depends on what you are doing. Finally, they brag the highest quality sound in partnership with Harman. Now, if you don't know, Harman tuning is probably the most standard sort of tuning across IEMs and a lot of audio equipment for listening purposes. And it's the tuning that a lot of reviewers and reviews for headphones and IEMs and stuff will put the reviewee up against. So I think that's a very good tuning to have gone with. We'll see how it adds up. So let's go through all of these points and more and see how that holds up. And then I will go ahead and talk about the primary accessories they sent me, as in things that you might have to buy depending on your use case. And then the secondary accessories, which are things that are just, if you want, they're there. And then at the very end of the video, I'm going to talk about like who this might be for. But first, before anything, we need to talk about fit and comfort, because you can see the coolest shoes in the world on sale, $5. They've got jet packs in them. They look sick. They got flames painted on the side, so you know they go faster, but they're way too small or way too big for you. How are you going to take advantage of that? And that is going to color your experience with them. So yes, comfort, not good. We hear a lot about how in tech there is an issue with sexism or any other sort of hegemony. And while people try to alleviate that a lot with the business side of things, I feel like a lot of the times the side that is ignored is the consumer side. When it comes to wearable tech, a lot of people are ignored. Now, the easiest thing for me to say is things that are wearable tech are often made for the average white male. But at the same time, I don't want to say that specifically, just because there are differences in body shape and type, from genetics, from your ethnic background, from a number of things. My girlfriend's head is, I think, larger, on the larger side for a woman, and my head is on the smaller side for a woman, but we are both cisgendered women. So it's kind of difficult to put it like that, but I do think that if we are averaging it, things are made for, on average, for cis white men who are in their 20s and 30s. Now, this is a problem, of course, because that's why I have my videos on headphones for small heads. I think one thing that has very much gotten around this has been controllers. Controllers, like, there's such a vast market for all different sizes and kinds of hands and grips. I remember when it was kind of just the console wars times of Xbox and PlayStation, there was a bit of like the PlayStation controllers felt a bit like, oh, you know, they're too small for like men, whereas the Xbox controllers, like, these fit perfectly for men. But even that is a very Eurocentric view, and I think a lot of the Japanese DualShock being smaller comes from, again, more of an ethnic average as opposed to a gender average. And we were just now are talking about something that is, you know, what, max $100 if you're buying something insane for a controller. So when it comes to tech that costs a lot more, for it to be built in such a manner that it only fits the average person is very distressing. They are incredibly heavy on my face and they don't sit on my ears. They fold my ears down. And so most of my testing I had to do lying down because it's the only way that I wasn't in a lot of discomfort. Even going to the weight also, I weighed my own glasses, which are 21 grams, and I weighed these XR glasses, which understandably are heavier and are 81 grams. My glasses are on the heavy side too, even though I get the ultra thin lenses. Got bad eyes, guys. So that is extremely disappointing because in the world of VR gaming, we have friggin' big chunkers right on your friggin' face, but there's straps, there's things to keep them in place. And with the VITURE glasses, they are very much going for, they're just glasses, you just put them on. But unfortunately, they really shot themselves in the foot with the fact that that's not true. Interestingly enough, I was looking on Amazon and at some reviews for the last generation of the glasses, and there were some complaints that they were too small. So on the complete other end of the spectrum than me, there are people for whom these glasses are too small. And if you go into any opticians, they will tell you how much of a challenge it is to find the right glasses for the individual, not just in terms of style, but also in terms of fit, in terms of pupillary distance, in terms of a lot of these things. And so this is kind of bound to be a problem, and therefore I wish that there were more options. I don't know what they could do, if they could provide adjustable tightness on the arms, if they could provide alternate arms, if they could provide multiple sizes. I know there's going to be people in the comments like, do not bring your fetish into this video. Just because you like the taste of mud and leather does not mean you have to share your bootlicking kink with the rest of us. Companies are not people. They can do better. Companies as a whole can do better. And that's what I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about VITURE. I'm talking about companies as a whole who build, who sell wearable tech that is often very expensive anyway. So we are going to talk about the glasses with the lens, that they were incredibly uncomfortable for me. So let's talk about the view. The view is quite nice, actually, for being something that is in your head. That's not like on a display, that's being projected. That spatial display wise, it's really nice. The ultra clarity, very true. You can see all of the edges very well. I used it with my Steam Deck. I pulled up Blasphemous, which is a stellar game, and I put on the CRT filter. I changed the aspect ratio to be more square so that it was more like in my proper field of vision, and it looked really nice. There is a warm tint I've noticed, regardless of if you have the black screen on or if you have the environment on. It might bother you, might not, but it's there. And it looked rather nice. And same with my Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch, you plug it into the dock, and I played some Spyro, and it even looked better with that. I think it works a lot better with 3D spaces in gaming as opposed to 2D spaces in gaming, because, you know, you're looking less like from left to right, like some idiot who doesn't realize the spatial display is literally right there. It's a little bit more immersive. So that was definitely an enjoyable view. But what was most enjoyable about this was the sound. Now, I'm not saying this is like high-end audio, but it was a lot better than what I expected. You can control the sound and the brightness with the buttons on the side, and it's very, very immersive sound. It doesn't take a lot of volume for you to be able to block out the sound around you. My girlfriend could be right in front of me and she was talking to me and I did not hear a word she was saying, but at the same time she couldn't hear the sound coming from the glasses. So I have to say that was what made me want to keep using it in the moment, was the sound. It was just so immersive. The sound was really immersive. It was really wonderful. And so that actually makes me excited for a future where sound on something like this could be even better and therefore even more immersive. In terms of the almost 100% black surrounding, that was interesting. I tried this both with the sunglasses on, which are the eyeballs you saw, and without. You can see a reflection in them. So the screen is like here, and then like the black is like at the bottom, and my pants, my Mario Kart pants with a black and white checkered pattern, kept reflecting into the black area. And if the screen was dark on whatever game or whatever I was playing, it would also reflect into that. And that was quite distracting, actually. You know, that wouldn't happen with an actual physical display. And so that's something to keep in mind as well. In terms of heat generation, they get warm on the right side where the cable goes, but they don't get warm enough or hot enough for you to notice, or for me to notice at least. And I am pretty sensitive to that kind of thing. So that is also a plus in my opinion. They definitely don't get loud. There's nothing that gets loud in them. That would be really upsetting, I think. I think that in terms of that kind of experience, it was pretty comfortable. And it's such a shame that I was only able to test them lying down, because they just don't, they pull my ears down. For my final verdict, let's go and talk about the other accessories. So there are two that I'm gonna call primary accessories, in that these actually expand the features of the XR glasses. The first one is the VITURE Neckband. The VITURE Neckband retails for $200, and it's essentially a mini computer. You can use it for a lot of apps like YouTube and Netflix and stuff like that. It runs on Android, so basically any Android-based app, and you can also use it for remote play. So you could ostensibly, be at a sleepover at your friend's house and remote play something else that isn't in their house. When I first opened the box, I actually thought they were those speakers that you put around your neck, but no, they don't have any speakers. They have buttons. You can also remote control them with a mobile app. It also has Bluetooth, so you can pair a controller, or keyboard, or anything onto it. So it can be used for games, but also for productivity. Now this is all well and good. So let's just talk about comfort and use. So I did use it just to try out some of the apps. I didn't try the remote play. It is very heavy. It is very heavy around your neck. And my girlfriend also agreed that it was very heavy around her neck as well. I know that there's only so small that you can make a computer, but I feel like at this point, it just makes more sense to connect the glasses to, for example, a cell phone or some other Android-based tablet or something else that can run the very same apps. It seems like a complete waste of $200 to have the neckband. It also puts you in a bit of between a rock and a hard place, because it has two performance modes. One of them where the fan is quiet and one where the fan is loud. When the fan is loud, it's very loud and it gets warm. When the fan is quiet, the fan, you don't hear it as much really, but it gets really hot. And all I was doing was watching YouTube. So I kind of would be very nervous about how hot it would get when you're like actually doing remote play or something. And that's on your neck, which is a sensitive part of the body. The skin is rather thin. I really don't recommend the neckband, especially at $200. Like, if you want to use it for productivity to run Android apps, just use an Android device. Next up is the VITURE mobile dock, which runs at $159. The mobile dock is interesting. The main selling point is that this is what you need to use your VITURE Pro glasses with a Nintendo Switch. You plug your Switch tablet into the dock and you plug the glasses into the dock as well, and you're able to play using a controller paired to your Switch tablet. Now, it does actually have some other interesting features. It also works as a battery pack, so it gives a lot of extra battery life to your device. For example, with the Switch, it can give up to 7 extra hours, which is really nice. And also it supports up to 2 glasses, so you can plug anything you want in there and have 2 people plug in glasses and have them watch together. It's $159, and you know, I feel like, again, that's a chunk of change for what it is, but I feel like with the battery aspect being an additional perk, you know, it's kind of also just indispensable if you want to use it with your Switch. In terms of my experience with it, I don't have a lot to say. It did what it sets out to do. And I think that if you are picking between the headband and the dock, absolutely the dock. Like, you can use the dock to plug stuff into the dock, use it as a battery pack, and then use the glasses with the dock. Like, it does not set your neck on fire. Next up, we're gonna have our secondary accessories. These are things that you absolutely do not need to buy, but they sent me and I'd like to say a couple of words on them. So first off, we have a VITURE collaboration with 8BitDo on a Ultimate C controller. So it's going off of the Steam Deck OLED colors with the orange and the transparent black. I think that that's part of like VITURE really pushing this as like a Steam Deck accessory as well. Now, I was pretty excited to get my hands on this because I love 8BitDo, and I've been seeing a lot of articles that are like, oh, the 8BitDo Ultimate C controller is the end game controller. You don't need any other controller after this. This is the controller. No, that's not true. So this collaboration is sold by VITURE on their website for $49 retail. The Ultimate C controller itself is sold for under $30 at most retailers. That's a big thing to keep in mind. This controller feels incredibly cheap. The triggers are very just short and snappy. The controller feels light and hollow. The D-pad is not super comfortable. Let's actually do a quick sound test so you can see how hollow it sounds. The trigger buttons have very little travel distance and are really unsatisfying to press. And I want to compare this to what it was designed after, which is the Switch Pro controller. Wider buttons, more depth, and a quick comparison also with the 8BitDo Pro controller, which retails for about $50. The D-pad is precise and wonderful. The buttons are a joy to press. And the triggers have so much travel and are quiet and gentle. it does not feel like an endgame controller, and looking at the actual retail price of the non-collaboration Ultimate C controller, it makes sense. It's a budget controller. It's a great budget controller, but it's not an endgame controller. It's not a great controller, and I would steer clear of the collaboration version unless you really want those colors, because at that price, you might as well just get the 8BitDo Pro controller. And finally, they sent me 2 dock mounts for the Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch. This is so that you can stick the device and the dock together and plug the USB-C cord over, and voila. The Switch one is fine, it's good. The material seems pretty nice. I was a little disappointed that you can't slide your Switch into it. You have to press it in, and I would have been a lot more comfortable sliding my Switch in, as I feel like there would be less cause for concern cosmetically speaking. But the Steam Deck one is like incredibly janky. It's the very cheap plastic that feels very brittle, and it's the kind of cheap plastic that you find in like the dollar store. So I don't know why they used a better plastic for the Switch than the Steam Deck, when the Steam Deck is also just a more valuable console. Like, it's you want to take more care of it. And I didn't even try to put my Steam Deck in it because I don't want to take the JSaw grip that I have on it off. It's a bit of a hassle. And then once I did, I just didn't feel comfortable putting my Steam Deck in like this jank piece of plastic. And then to realize that they're selling both of these 2 plastic bits for $29 on their website retail is it's a bit of a bizarre cash grab. At the very least, they could make the Steam Deck version higher quality then. But yeah, that's it. That's all they sent me. And those are my thoughts on everything. But I did not talk about my final thoughts on the VITURE Pro XR glasses. And that's because I have a few different thoughts. So I, like I said, have not tried any other spatial display glasses, and it was hard for me to really spend a good amount of time with these due to the fact that they were incredibly uncomfortable. So already I can tell you, if you have a smaller head than the average white male, they're probably going to be uncomfortable for you as well, and don't get them. But if you do have a, quote unquote normal or average size head, they might be worth taking a look at if you are into this kind of stuff, because the image clarity is really nice. The sound is really nice. It's nice that they're compatible with such a vast array of devices. But then we come to who is this for in the broader question, which I think is part of the reason why, even though these like spatial display glasses are what tech companies keep pushing as the one thing they've chosen from retrofuturism to bring into the present, who is this for? The reason I ask that is, comfort aside, every time I was using them, while the display is really nice, the display on my Steam Deck is much nicer. The display on my Switch OLED is much nicer. The display on my computer monitor is much nicer. The display on my living room TV, which is just like an old LCD TV, is much nicer. My CRT is nicer. And so it's kind of like, well, why am I choosing this over those? That was a question that I could not find an answer for. And then beyond that, we get to the social aspect of it. I think it's kind of hilarious, the idea of using 2 pairs of these glasses to watch something with your friend or family or partner or whatever. It's just kind of dystopian to me, of like, we are watching the same thing, but we can't see each other while we're watching it, despite physically being in the same place. Like, it kind of just makes me uncomfortable, like very much stripping the humanity of the interactions that we have. So I don't understand the co-op idea of it either. And so for me, my use case that comes to mind is accessibility. And that's something that I know VR has been great for in terms of VR gaming as well. Because imagine you have had some sort of accident and you are unable to move your neck. Being able, therefore, to use these glasses with like your Switch, Steam Deck, phone, whatever, and just be able to sit up straight and see while being somewhere that's, you know, more comfortable than potentially somewhere with a TV, maybe you're bedbound. I think that that's really, really cool. That is just one example of many. There are a vast array of accessibility issues, which are either temporary disabilities or permanent, which I think that this kind of technology can really help to alleviate. And that really also struck me when I was lying down, because while myself as a able-bodied person was laying down and had these glasses on and was playing, there was definitely something very neat and novel about that, because despite all of these things, there's no way that I can play a game in my bed while looking up without holding a device on top of my head and potentially even dropping it on my face. Who hasn't done that? But at the same time, for me as an able-bodied person, I was definitely getting that feeling of like, oh, this is the WALL-E type dystopia of like, you don't need to move. You can just be in your little pod and you don't have to move a muscle. However, there are people who are in situations like that, and it is not out of laziness. It is due to a disability, again, temporary or permanent. Imagine being like in a cast and you have to lie down. You know, I think that for these use cases, it's not just like useful, but it's exciting. Just the accessibility aspect of technology is very exciting, and it's something that I hope that people don't lose sight of, because I know that technology is so much entwined and entangled with consumerism, but there are parts of it that can actually help improve people's quality of life. If you're interested in trying out any of the VITURE products for yourself, you can use my discount code Marissa with 1S. You gotta know that by now, right? For 10% off of your purchase. It doesn't apply to the VITURE Pro glasses because they're, you know, a new launch product, but anything else in the line, because if you're gonna get them, you probably should pick up like a dock or something anyway. And let me know if it's something that's up your alley, because also, accessibility aside, I know there are people out there like who are tech bros lovingly and tech bros derogatory who are interested in stuff like this, and more power to you. But for now, I'm gonna sit here and stare at my boring, old-timey old CRT. I've been your cool Uncle Marissa. Thanks again so much to VITURE for sending these products to review. It truly was an experience. And don't you forget that cool uncle loves you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.